right, this is Bart and George coming to you live from San Francisco at the Web 2.0 Summit, and I'm here with Charlene Li. Charlene, how are you doing?
Good.
So Charlene, you are the founder of Altimeter Group and one of the partners there, which focuses on social media. Can you tell us some of the hot topics right now in the whole social media space?
Well, a lot of the people we're talking to, especially with the client work that we do, are asking us about strategy. Up to this point, social media has been something that a couple people have been doing here and there. Most companies don't have a unified, holistic approach to how the company wants to approach how it's going to work with its customers and also with its employees. So we're getting a lot of calls from people saying, well, how do we think about this as a company instead of a blog here, a Facebook page there? So I think it's now time where social media has actually grown up, where it's something that people have to take seriously because it's actually becoming strategic and important to the business.
Is there a characteristic of the types of companies you're getting these inquiries from, or are they all over the map, no size or industry?
Over the map. I mean, we're talking to professional service firms, agencies, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, B2B, which is very interesting. A lot of interest in how do you use these tools now to develop a B2B relationship. Sometimes B2B to C, where you may skip the B2B and just go directly to C in order to create more demand for your business partner. So there are certain themes that we see over and over again, but I think the key one is we need to have an idea, an approach to approaching this, one that actually makes sense, that's strategic, rather than tactical. And the hallmark of this is people will say, we need a Facebook strategy. And then they suddenly sit back and go, that's not the right way to think about it, because if I have a Facebook strategy and a Twitter strategy and a blogging strategy and they're not holistically put together to say how we're going to achieve a strategic goal for our business, the whole thing falls apart.
I was going to say, how many people go directly to the tools and try to build tactical plans around that?
All the time. And it's the most natural place to go because you're sitting going, what can I do with Twitter? Let's try. Let's use it for support. Okay, great. Now, how does that integrate into customer support overall? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, what kind of process are you following? We like to show the triage map from the U.S. Air Force and say, do you have one of these things for social? You have it for call centers. You have it for email. You don't have it for social media. And it's basically an ad hoc process is what most people say. And I go, well, the problem with ad hoc is that it tends to go on vacation or it tends to leave the company. So then what do you have? You have a customer relationship that's just lying there with no outlet. You can't do that anymore. You could have this sort of organic approach to social media when it wasn't that important. Now that companies realize that it's central to the customer relationship, they really have to treat it as this really important asset.
And getting back to tools, there was an announcement yesterday, a big announcement by Facebook about some tools they're launching. What do you think of those? And can you tell us a little bit about what the announcement was?
Yeah, it was at the Facebook launch. It's called Facebook Messages, and I was one of the lucky people who got pre-briefed about it over the weekend. The idea is that instead of just thinking about Facebook as communications inside of Facebook, it's communications with anybody in your life. And so if you want to reach your grandmother, she probably only uses maybe email, if that. And so using Facebook to connect to her, it doesn't make a lot of sense because she's not on Facebook. But now they've opened up the communications platform so you can actually send an email to her. She can also send an email to you, to your Facebook address. You'll be assigned a Facebook address, so me@facebook.com, and she can reach you that way. And it's a realization that email doesn't work for everybody, and neither does Facebook work for everybody. So what I find interesting about Facebook, historically a very closed community, really opened up. They completely opened up their platform in terms of communications and messaging to anybody. So you're no longer tied into that space. The irony is that actually creates more tie-in for the people who use Facebook because now it's become so much more functional for them that they will put more and more and invest more into the communications platform that's on Facebook.
Cool. And then the gratuitous question about Dell. So your company gave us an award recently. Can you tell us what you think Dell does well about social media, and then also where we could improve?
Okay, great question. I wrote a book called Open Leadership, and we had an award program. People had to submit, and Dell submitted and won an award, won the Open Leadership Awards. And I love talking about Dell because Manish runs a great team. There's so many people, and what I really admire is that it's not just a small group of people inside the company. The whole idea is to spread it out as quickly as possible, make it much more holistic approach. So different product teams are owning it. It's no longer just centralized. But at the same time, there are some areas of expertise. I think the listening center, the strategic listening that you're doing as a company, centralizing that, but also making it accessible to everybody is a really good best practice. Not the only way, but it's a really good approach to that. I think one thing that Dell can improve, I think it's more than anything else. I think, again, I'm always just going to push it even further. This is an organization that grew up with it being centralized, and I think having it more spread out with more voices, more diversified, at the points not even necessarily in that social business group. I think your position, Barton, for example, where it's at the product level, it's at the customer level, really saying, how can we actually improve this? What I'm looking for is for every Dell employee to say, I own that. I own that relationship. I use those listening tools to influence how I can serve customers better every single day. And the real potential behind this is that the entire organization is listening to customers and can be just that little bit more affinity, have a little bit more affinity with the customer, understand those needs better. They can do their jobs just a little bit better. The productivity gains to Dell would be just amazing. So floating on top already of your wonderful engagement, imagine that level of engagement across the entire organization, where every employee is direct to every single customer. I think that would just propel Dell to incredible heights in terms of performance.
Charlene Li, thank you so much.
Thanks.